difference between Karen Reed and me is that I chose to be here. She didn't.
Right.
You know, like she didn't ask to get framed for murder,
Yeah.
but she was. I chose to look into this. I chose to make a big spectacle out of this. I chose to, really just make my voice heard and make sure that the story was told.
All right. Welcome back to the Covert to Overt show. I'm your host, Mark Chauppetta, and today I got a really cool guest, Mr. Aiden Carney, a.k.a. Turtleboy. Welcome to the show.
All right, thanks for having me, Mark.
Yeah, I appreciate you taking the ride, coming down. Your celebrity is high now, so I feel extremely honored to, have you gracing us here in the studio.
My pleasure. It's not an easy ride getting to Abington, but
right.
especially in the rain. But
especially in the rain.
Made it happen. We're a little late. I'm a little late, I know, but.
But let's face it, and we'll touch on it in a little while. You have faced the worst of the worst. You were incarcerated for a little while. You are now a free man, so.
Not
Not yet.
Yeah.
You're free outside the walls right now. So taking a nice casual leisurely ride to Abington probably feels good. You got the windows down.
Yeah, I mean, I drove by the jail on the way here. You know, you go by 95, go by Dedham, and every time you drive by there, you're like, I never want to go back there, obviously. And, you still remember your 2 months there vividly. It was the longest 60 days of your life. And, you just vow to never go back. But, as long as these charges exist, I mean, I got out in February of 24, and it is now July of 26. We're talking 2.5 years later.
Yeah.
And the charges that, I had my bail revoked for still exist. And therefore, the bail still exists. And as long as the bail exists, then the bail can be revoked at any point. And there's no shortage of people out there who are actively trying to get your bail revoked at all times, because it's just like a sick game for some of these people. Yeah. I was indicted last week in New Jersey, of all places, a part of the state I've never been to, right? With a person I've never met, because I wrote about them 9 months ago, about something they did to Paul O'Keefe. I wrote about her, and I talked about her on my show, and I did what I always do. I make fun of them, and you know what I mean? I call them out expose them.
Right.
And I was indicted for cyber harassment for that. And I still don't know what happened or how this came to be. But the fact that people are out there like that are constantly trying to get you jammed up while you're out on bail, like you're weak when you're out on bail, because anything, they kind of got you by the balls. Like they know that you're in a position where you can't really be yourself and fight back how you normally would, because you're on bail and you got to be careful. And like everything you say and, gets recorded and twisted and shared in bad faith by people who, like I said, they want to hurt you. Like these people that want to put me in jail, this is just like a game for them. They're just like, can we do it? Can we get him in there? And it's like not realizing like, I have a family, I have kids. Like it affects, our incarceration is a big deal. It affects a lot of people, but for some people it's just a game, and people are just sick. And so looking forward to the day when this is finally behind me.
Yeah. And I'll be there standing right next to you. Cyber harassment. Is that something new? That's like, when did that take effect? Where you can actually go online and it's kind of like, your First Amendment right, cyber harassment. When did you hear about that, learn about that? Is that when they charged you?
Yeah, it's a woman who, she contacted me in January of 2025.
Yeah.
And told me that she had been in an online relationship with Paul O'Keefe, the brother of John O'Keefe.
Yeah.
And that he was using Karen Reed's murder trial as a way to communicate with her on camera and send signals to her. And he's married. He's sitting next to his wife, which to me, that's not the scandal. The scandal, it was the fact that this guy he knows he's on TV at his brother's murder trial, and he's not, and instead of thinking about the trial, he's thinking about some woman in New Jersey who he says he's in love with, and he's sending her hand signals saying, like, I'm thinking about you when I scratch my, nose and my middle finger. And so I wrote about it because she sent it to me, and he also told her that when he testified at the first trial, he was drunk. And to me, that's newsworthy. So I write about it, and this woman loved it, and she loved what it did to Paul, but she's unstable. And somewhere along the way, she started complaining to people that that I published this, and she didn't want me to, and she feels bad, and this and that, and then I'm the bad guy. And finally, she just started publicly attacking me. And I fired back, and I said who she was. I hadn't previously said who she was. And I called her choice words because that's what I do. And as an American, you can call people nasty words. You call someone a hoe. You can call somebody. And those were words I've used on many people before, and I used on her. And she attempted to get a restraining order on me, got a temporary one. And then we had a 2-party hearing. And right before she was about to be cross-examined by my attorneys, of whom I had to shell out like tens of thousands of dollars for in New Jersey, she decided she admitted she wasn't scared of me, and she dropped the order. Little did I know, she then went and filed her own criminal complaint against me for cyber harassment. And under the New Jersey statute, it says that you can't send lewd, obscene, or other materials via the internet to someone. I didn't do anything like that. She actually sent pictures of Paul O'Keefe to me, that intimate pictures that Paul had sent her, and she shared them with me. I didn't send her anything like that. So we don't know what I've been indicted for. I haven't seen the grand jury docs. I have no idea what this is. I haven't talked about this person. And it's like because I, exposed factually what they did 9 months ago and shared my opinions about them, I'm under indictment now.
Isn't this an ongoing thing with people everywhere? TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, like people aren't being indicted like you are.
No. And I've done this this is how I've built my brand for the last 12 years. I call people out and when they act shitty, and I say choice words about them. And, apparently some people I found out with the McAlberts, you can't do that to them. You're not allowed to do that. There's some people the First Amendment doesn't exist in their orbit as long as I'm talking to them. You could call her those things. You won't be indicted.
Right.
But I can't because I have a YouTube show with a lot of people, so there's special rules when it comes to me.
All right. So a lot of people come up to me. They know that we have an affiliation. And, they ask me certain questions, and they ask me about your past and how you started and how you got your nickname. So why don't we kind of go back to the beginning days, just kind of tell people who you are, where you came from. I know. Yeah. And, where the Turtleboy name came from, and then how you kind of rose the ranks. And
so I was a high school teacher in a district called Dudley Charlton Regional School District right outside of Worcester. And I had taught there I'd been a teacher for about a decade, taught 11th grade history. And in the meantime, I started a blog called AidenFromWorcester.com in which I talked about my opinion on sports and other pop culture topics. And I was kind of like, myself. I'm crass. I'm vulgar. I share my, authentic opinions about people. Well, it turns out you can't do that when you're a teacher because you can't really offend people when you're a teacher. Kids might read it. And so I'm like, so I got called down to the office about it. And I was kind of put on like probation almost, like you can't, no more internet postings, controversial stuff. One more thing, you're done here. And so I abandoned AidenFromWorcester.com, and I'm like, well, if I want to do this, I have to be anonymous. And so I created a brand called Turtleboy Sports, and it was named after the statue in downtown Worcester of a boy who appears to be, it looks like it's a funny statue. It looks like he's having sex with a turtle. Because I'm from Worcester, like it's like the landmark in Worcester is the Turtleboy statue, and so I'm like, what more Worcester name than Turtleboy? So I'm like, I started calling myself Turtleboy Sports, and I was anonymous for several years, or at least for about a year, until I was teaching too. So I was like teaching during the day, going home and writing articles and blogs, and throughout 2014, and then towards the end of 2014, I went to a game in Buffalo. And we watched and I filmed my encounter up there. And this is back when the Patriots had Brady, and we would kill them. He went like 35-3 against the Bills, and like just murdered them every time. And they hate Brady up there, and they're like the most vulgar fan base. And so I'm like, this is good content. And so I filmed myself up there, like going at it with Bills fans, chirping at them throwing stuff at me, calling me choice words, and it's all in good fun, just sports, right? And I went home and I published an article about it, and it went viral in Buffalo, okay? And so, like, people on sports talk radio out there were like, who is this Turtleboy person that came here and made us look bad and all this stuff? And they hated me because they hate Tom Brady, they hate the Patriots, and now they hate me for making them look bad. And there was one guy up there who had a blog called Buffalo Bruises. His name was James Krieger, and he doxed me. Like, he found out who I was somehow. I was indeed behind this, whatever, and he put it out there, and he's got a picture of me on there, and he's like, this scumbag works at this public high school, Shepherd Hill.
Boy.
Go contact them, put their contact info. And I'm CC'd on all these emails from all these Buffalo fans saying this guy's a scumbag. And he made some stuff up too. He's like, he went to the game and he was jerking off on like on a girl behind him, like outrageous stuff that would be like, you'd be arrested and kicked out. And so none of it's true, of course. I was at the game. I was chirping at these people, but like, you're allowed to do that at a sports game.
Yeah.
I was indeed behind the blog. And so the school got bombarded with emails. And this is a school where they had been in the news in the past, and they wanted to avoid controversy because there was a teacher, if you look her up, her name's Amber Jennings, and she was right before I got there. Hot smoke show, 30-year-old teacher had sex with a 15-year-old student.
Oh, boy.
And she was arrested for it. And so Shepherd Hill was in the business of like avoiding media controversy at all costs. And so they don't need this. And so they bring me down there, the superintendent's there, the principal there, the union's there, a Dudley police officer's there. And, they're just like, are you okay? And I'm like, been better. Because I'm getting CC'd on all these emails. I see the principals on them. I'm like, I'm just waiting for the ball to drop. My students have all read this article now. And it's all untrue, and I can't respond.
Right.
And so I'm like, they go, why don't you we'll put you on paid leave, to give it some time, and we'll talk about what we can do about this. And so I was on paid leave for like 3 weeks, and I went to Chicago, and my uncle lives there just to get away. Mm-hmm. And he's like, I want you to think about like what you could do besides teaching. And I'm like, so he owns his own water treatment company out there. And he brought me around. He introduced me to some people he had business details with. He's like, this guy provides me with this, and we work this out. And, he's like just trying to get me in like a business mentality. But he's like, all you wanted to do the whole time was talk about Turtleboy. He's like, that's clearly your passion. It's like, you like doing this, and you're good at it, and you have a decent-sized audience already. So what if you just monetized it? And I'm like, well, how do I do that? And he's like, well, you find out who's advertising in your local newspaper, and then you go to those companies because they have disposable income for this stuff, and you say, why don't you give me $300? I'll put your banner ad on the site, and you get 20 people like that. You're making as much as you were as a teacher. And so that's what I did. I went door to door. I got local advertisers on my site, and before I did that, I had to resolve the thing with the school, and I said, like, the union came to me and they go, they're going to try to terminate you. They go, they're not convinced they could though, because First Amendment issues, but they believe you're behind this Turtleboy blog. They don't care about all the other stuff about like these ridiculous allegations, but you're on thin ice for social media postings. So if they think you're behind this Turtleboy blog, they could have grounds for termination. Or they offered me a full year's salary and letters of recommendation and all this stuff if I just walked away. And so,
no brainer.
Yeah, I'm like, so I saw that as like a nest egg. Like, this is like, if I'm going to turn Turtleboy into, I need to eat in the
invest
meantime.
it back into this Turtleboy project.
And so like, and just I need to be able to pay my bills while I'm getting this company started up. Basically, it is a business. So I turned it from, Jay-Z once said that I'm not a businessman. I'm a businessman. And that's the way I viewed this. Is like Turtleboy was a business, like, right? And so like, why not me? And so I started getting local advertisers and all this stuff. I quit teaching. I left that behind, and I was still, quasi anonymous, but people kind of knew who I was. And, it's grown from there. And I keep writing. The more I would write about, I was a local guy. I was a Worcester guy first. So I would write about Worcester centric issues. But then I would write about, expand east where all the people are. And I'd write about things in the South Shore and the North Shore and in Boston. And people out there start following you. And so, like, the more stories I wrote, I would write 3 or 4 blogs a day. And, and I would write about scumbags. Like, that was the big theme. Scumbags and exposing corruption. And when you do that, it resonates with people because they don't like, as it turns out, people don't like scumbags.
Did you drop the sports from it at that
point? I
point?
never really wrote about sports. It didn't sell.
Because I would hear you on with like Jerry Callahan. I think that's when I first kind of stumbled on you.
Yeah, and they never really had me on to talk about sports.
Right.
Because the Kirk and Callahan show never really like, that's why it was the top rated show, because they didn't just talk sports. Like, I used to call in a Felger and Maz, which is a sports show.
Yeah.
And that's why I called it AidenFromWorcester.com, because I would call in there so much. But, when I was on Kirk and Callahan, I would, for instance, they had me on to discuss the assassination of Ron Tarantino, an Auburn cop, in 2016, and it turns out the guy who killed him should have been in jail a million times, right? And he was dating a woman whose stepfather was a judge who worked in the Westboro District Court probation office. And there's I'm like, this guy isn't just some random person who killed Ron Tarantino. He's connected to powerful people. He's a scumbag. He shouldn't have been out on the streets. Ron Tarantino should be alive today. And that caught Jerry's attention. That's the first time he started following me. He had me on the first time. And then later on, they were being attacked by some guy named Bob Murchison. He's like this activist from Sherborne, a very rich town in Middlesex County. Mm-hmm. And apparently they had made comments on their show about transgender kids in sports or something like that.
I remember.
And they took the position that it's not fair for female athletes or whatever. Mm-hmm. And Bob Murchison lost it because he's got a transgender son or daughter. I don't even know. But he's like a very wealthy guy, and he started emailing all of WE's
the sponsors,
all of them,
yeah,
and got a whole bunch of them to quit, right? And they were told, you can't talk about this anymore. And so finally, like, everybody knew something was up with them. They had been neutered, and then Kirk reached out to me, and he told me the whole thing. And I published the story exposing Bob Murchison, and they loved it because Kirk had all been fired basically for this, you know, and Jerry was still working there. And it just exposed WEI that you guys gave into this punk, this bully, Bob Murchison, this rich and powerful guy who spends all of his day trying to silence the speech of others. And he should be outed. And that resonated with a lot of people because Kirk and Callahan was the top rated sports show in all of New England. Right? Because they talked about stuff like that.
They did.
And people liked, and that's what people wanted to hear. But this one guy sitting in his mansion in Sherborne decides, I don't think you guys should be able to say that. And so I'm going to take it away from not just you guys, but everyone, all the listeners who enjoyed it. I'm going to take that away from you. And people like that should be exposed, and you should call them mean names.
And now the station is just kind of a watered down version.
It's a Bob Murchison. And look at Kirk. He's thriving. He started his own thing at Barstool.
He's on Barstool.
You know what I mean? Jerry started his own podcast where he talks about whatever he wants to talk about. I did my own brand.
I was thinking about that. Like your start kind of reminds me of Portnoy's start in a way.
Yeah.
You know, kind of has some parallel.
Yeah. I deeply admire Dave Portnoy for everything he built. I mean, he's a local guy, right? A little bit older than me, but like literally went to University of Michigan, great school. Didn't even need to go there, as it turns out. And I didn't even know to go to college either.
Right.
Like, I could have just started this. Like, he gets out of college, and his passion was speaking and being funny and talking about sports in a way people wanted to hear in the everyman style.
Mixing a little, few hot chicks.
Yeah,
here
some
and
hot chick. He
there
knows what sells.
Yeah.
You know, because there's a market for that. Yeah. Guys like that. And so he's hustling, and he's out there. This is before blogs were real big. He started printing out newsletters.
Yeah, putting them on Barstools.
Putting them in on the train, just giving them to people for free. He would sell advertising. That's the definition of hustling. You know, literally rags to riches. We're talking about a guy with a Michigan degree. You know, he could have gone on to get any number of jobs, but he didn't want a job. He wanted to be the job, and he took a chance, and that's the American spirit. And he built something that people like, that people want to buy, that people want to listen to. And he did it by being controversial and not caring. And they came at him, right? How many people have tried to cancel Dave Portnoy over the years? And no matter how much they try to cancel him, he only grows stronger. So, yeah, I'm not Dave Portnoy. Some people are like, you want to be like Dave Portnoy? Well, yeah, I want to be. Of course, I want his wealth and his success.
Yeah, that's the highest compliment you can give someone. When you want to be like someone.
But what him and I do is very different.
Yeah,
like he's more he shies away. He didn't get into the Karen Reed thing. He stayed away from that. Whereas like I jump balls deep into that. Like that's my bread and butter. I like getting into the real controversial stuff where Dave likes to more just it's not as intense as what I do.
So that story that you just mentioned, the rich guy in the mansion. That's pretty much what spearheaded you?
Spearheaded me?
Yeah, kind of, people started to recognize you, that you you wrote this story on this?
I mean, I think I was started to get, attention before that.
Were you?
Like the Ron Tarantino story in 2016, that was a pretty big story when I wrote about that.
Okay.
And locally. And then in 2017 was a real big year for me because I started to expand.
Yeah.
And I hired various bloggers from different parts of the state, and we called them, like, there's this one girl, South Shore Turtle Girl. She lived down in, I think, Acushnet or Fairhaven, one of those towns down there. And she would write about stories in her area, and she was really funny because I'm not familiar with the area. I don't know the ins and outs of, like, what's going on in Plymouth and Brockton and stuff like that, whereas she did. And I hired a girl from Lawrence up there, like right near, or Methuen, one of those, and we called her Merrimack Valley Turtle Babe. And then we had a girl in Somerville, and we called her North Shore Turtle Girl. And they covered stories from their areas, and they did it kind of in the Turtleboy style, exposing bad behavior. It's funny. Like, some of their articles are really funny. And I exploded in 2017. I went from getting, like, on the website, 25,000 views a day to 100,000 views a day. And I could pay them too, because we're getting paid by the click.
Right. Like, so you don't have to go to the local companies to get your sponsorship money.
Yeah, I got rid of like that.
Yeah,
that
because some of those people might shy away from you because of the stories that you're writing about.
That model had to end in 2016 because there was this thing called Turtle Boycott. And these people organized, they're like, he's mean, he's saying things about Black Lives Matter and things that are offensive. And they would just harass these advertisers to the point where they're like, I can't deal with the phone calls anymore. And I'm like, you know what? I have to have digital ads that just, you get paid per click that way. And I had that throughout 2017. And I grew, and I had tremendous success in 2017. And our Facebook following got up to 100,000, over 100,000 followers, which is a huge number back then. And my Twitter account, I think I had like 25,000 followers on Twitter. I was expanding rapidly in 2017. Like, I was going places. And then it all came crashing down on November 28th of 2017 when I got a message that my Facebook account with 112,000 followers was nuked because I'd written about this cheese hog named Didi Delgado, who was just a BLM scammer, enriching herself off of BLM.
What's a cheese hog?
I gave people funny names.
Yeah.
And so she was the cheese hog. So I called her cheese hog. And so this cheese hog, just this gross, disgusting pig who was like, somehow like a leader in the BLM movement was just, she was forcing white women to pay her reparations. She's like, and she had like a crew of white women that every month they had to hashtag done for Didi. They would send her money to like alleviate their guilt they have for being white. And she would accept it, and that's literally how she would make money, is she would force white women to pay her reparations. That's a hilarious story to me.
Right.
And so I'm going to write about her. I exposed her, and the crazy white women that would give her reparations were like, he's racist, we're going to shut him down, and they just mass reported my Facebook page until it got removed permanently, and I couldn't get it back, and it was hard then to get my website out there because social media was the vehicle I used to get it out there. Like, if it's not on social media, people aren't seeing it. And they got my Twitter account banned. And then they got me kicked off of Google AdSense. And so I couldn't monetize my website. And I'm like, what am I going to do? And so I had to create a whole new website from scratch called tbdailynews.com, which I knew. So turtleboysports.com still exists, but I don't publish on anymore. Because it's worth no money. I can't make money off of it. So tbdailynews.com. I'm a little bit cleaner with the headlines. I don't call people cheese hogs and fupa sloths and stuff like that anymore. But I could still tell the story without the same words.
Right.
And so I made money that way. And I kept getting kicked off Facebook. I've had over 50 Facebook pages. Like, every time I would build a new one up, they would get it nuked. Twitter, I was banned from Twitter for 2 or 3 years until Elon purchased it and allowed people to speak freely on there. And now I have 160,000 followers or whatever. And YouTube was the same way. I was demonetized from YouTube for many years until last year. We had it reviewed again, and they let me be monetized for some reason. So I've overcome a lot. There has been obstacle after obstacle after obstacle in the way of trying to silence me. And I wrote a book in 2019 called I Am Turtleboy. It's on Amazon, and it talks about all of the censorship I've had to overcome and how I've jumped this obstacle and this obstacle. And the theme of the book is that, like, free speech isn't really free. Like, if it costs you this much money to talk. If you have to hire lawyers, I'm getting sued all the time. If you are getting demonetized, if it costs you sponsorships, then it's not really free speech. It costs a lot of money to speak.
It's filtered speech.
But you got to overcome it. Like, I can't give up. Like, I'm all in. I left teaching for this. Like, I'm all in. And where there's a will, there's a way. And people like you, and no matter what happens, you find a new way to overcome it. Like, I'll tell you right now, like another example of censorship recently. So, I did the Wilbur show. You were at it.
I was there.
And what was the atmosphere like there?
It was wild, crazy, exciting.
Everybody loved it, right?
Loved it.
Loved it. Sold out.
And we were filming your documentary.
Yeah. And the atmosphere was just fun. Everyone had a great time.
Yeah.
Okay. And we were set to do it again I had discussions with the owner there, and we were going to do another one in, I believe, June of this year. And so then I talked to him in February, and he's like, well, we'll talk again in like 2 months. We'll pick a date. And I talked to him again in 2 months, and he informed me it's not going to happen because basically I had offended someone who works there with my support of Kelsey Fitzsimmons. And as it turns out, one of the people that works there is good friends with Justin Alain.
Right. Another case that I worked on.
Yes, exactly.
Yes. Yeah.
And so that's an example then of, like, so I'm just banned from the Wilbur.
Isn't it your right to support her? And ultimately,
it is.
The courts
they agreed with me.
Agreed with what you were saying.
Yeah, but you can't be mean. It just shows you that, like, if you offend
someone's opinion
out there, they just want to silence you.
And they're connected to someone that has a say.
And so I made a lot of money off of the Wilbur show.
Yeah.
And like I need money because I have all these legal fees and everything. So I need to be able to do shows and hustle. And that door is just closed. And because I have opening charges against me, like, people are going to do that wherever I go, whatever theater I go to. So luckily, one door closes, you got to hustle. You got to find
another
new.
will always open.
And we are in talks with another theater, and we're hoping to have a show in the next couple of months. So stay tuned.
Awesome. So prior to leading up to the Karen Reed case, when you would get tips about these less than desirable people that wanted you to report on them, what was your procedure when it came to checking sources and making sure it was okay for you to print?
Well, you just make sure you can't defame people. You can't make stuff up. And often it was just stuff they said online. It's like, here's this person, what they're posting on Facebook. Here are their own words. And I would just criticize them that way. Or you just pull up their court records. You can go, I've learned how to research and do FOIAs and all that stuff. And pull up, and here's the documents of the case, and here's the affidavit, and here's the evidence, and blah, blah, blah. And there's not much they can say to that. I've been sued many times before. I've never lost. Like, many people have sued me for defamation. Many people have attempted to get restraining orders on me based off of the words I put in my articles. None of them have succeeded because I don't defame people. I don't say things that I can't back up. And the same goes with this Karen Reed stuff. Like, everything that I said about the McAlberts is opinion based on fact or fact itself.
Okay, well, let's get into the whole Karen Reed case here and how you got involved. And I kind of know because initially you weren't really involved, and then or you were given materials on it, right, at one point?
Well, I was alerted on. I remember. So when this first happened, when John O'Keefe was killed in January of 2022. Karen Reed's arrested on February 2nd. All right. I see this in the news. That's a story I'd normally write about because, police officers getting killed.
Yeah.
Like, I wrote about Michael Chestnut. Like, that was a real big story in 2018 I did, exposing the scumbag who killed Michael Chestnut and the judges who allowed him to remain free. And then Sean Gannon in Yarmouth.
Happened just right up the street in Weymouth.
Yeah, and that was like a couple months prior. Sean Gannon was killed in Weymouth. And it's like, this is an epidemic here of, like, scumbags who should be in jail, but judges are letting them go free, and it's time to expose who the judges are.
Right.
That was my take on that stuff, and that's what I was doing.
Right.
And so, what were we talking about? We were
just how the whole Karen Reed came to you when you started reporting on it, when you started to maybe get a sense of there was something nefarious here.
So that's normally a story I jump all over, like a murdered cop, and I would look into the killer and expose them or whatever. And so I saw Karen Reed was arrested, and I looked into her briefly, and I'm like, okay, she works at Fidelity. She has no criminal record. And it appears as if this was all a tragic accident. So I had no take on it, so I didn't write about it. And somebody actually asked me, there's a tape from a February 10th, 22 show that I did, and somebody asked me, are you going to write about this John O'Keefe thing, Boston police officer? And I go, well, it looks like she hit him with the car, and it looks like a tragic accident.
Right.
And I kind of feel bad for her and for everyone, and I have no take on it. So it's not like she's like a career criminal where I can be like, she should have been in jail previously. Like, there was nothing there. And so I just assumed what the media was telling me was true and what the police were telling me is true. This woman backed into her car. It was a tragic accident, and I forgot about it. I didn't even know she was indicted for murder because I stopped paying attention to it.
Right.
And then I didn't remember the name Karen Reed. I barely remember the name John O'Keefe. And somebody messaged, I saw on April 12th of 2023, more than a year later, a blip on NBC 10. And it said, lawyers for woman accused of killing cop say new evidence exonerates her, implicates others. And I read it, and there was something about someone inside the house that she dropped him off at who had Googled how long to die in cold at 227, and that this was a Boston police officer's house. And I'm like, note to self, look more into that. And that was on April 12th, and I got busy, and I didn't look into it. April 17th, like the story didn't really blow up. No one was paying attention to it. I get a message April 17th from a guy named Brian Johnson. He's a former Duxbury cop who's been a source, is a supporter of mine and source of information. And he told me I used to work with John O'Keefe in Duxbury because John was a Duxbury cop. And something's not right here. I don't know if you've been paying attention, but, it looks to me like she didn't do this and that he was killed inside of Brian Albert's house. And Brian Albert's a hothead. He's notorious. He's a scumbag, but he's like well-connected. You should look into this. Here's the court filings. And so he sent me Alan Jackson's court filing from April 12th that was reported in the media. And I really read it. It's 94 pages long. And the media wasn't getting into all the stuff. Like, the stuff in there was crazy. And it was undeniable. Like, that he had dog bites on him. And the guy had a dog that they've rehomed. The dog's just missing. Right. Or that John's iPhone data shows him going up and down 3 flights of stairs right after the time that Karen allegedly dropped him off at the house, right? And that this woman Googled how long to die in cold, and she deleted it. And that the lead detective, right, has known the people who have been involved, who like that homeowner and his family, has known them dating back decades to the point where at his sister's wedding, Colin Albert was 7 years old, and he was the ring bearer. And he was inside the house, and they were hiding that.
And this is Michael Proctor you're talking about.
This is Michael Proctor. So Michael Proctor, the lead detective, knows the people who own the home. He knows their family. He doesn't interview any of them. He doesn't treat them as suspects. He blames it on Karen Reed. And then the real hook for me was that in the affidavit, it shows that Karen Reed's car was towed at 5:30, and from her dad's house in Dayton. And that's like 45 minutes from Canton. And that the taillight was found at the scene at 5:45. So if the car's towed at 5:30 and the state police find taillight at 5:45, then it can't be planted, can it?
Right.
Except in the affidavit, it shows actually the car was towed at 4:12. And there's ring camera footage showing the car being put on the tow truck bed at 4:12. So they lied about what time it was towed, and that gave them plenty of time to take the vehicle. If they wanted to break it, put taillight there, and they found taillight there that the Canton police did not find 11 hours prior when they first discovered John's body in the exact same spot. So I could go on and on
about this thing just smelled like shit to you.
It smelled like absolute shit, and I was convinced from the moment I read the filings. You know why? There was no disputing any of it. It's data. The data is the data. And so it's like, I'm open to hear the alternative side, but guess what? They don't want to talk. None of them, they just wait till what comes out in court. How about you show me now? How about we see right now what you have? And you have nothing. You can't dispute any of these facts.
So who did you reach out to? Did you reach out to Karen Reed's legal team at that point?
I didn't. I was connected to them. So I had this woman who's gone off the deep end. Her name's Jen Altman. She's a little unstable now, but she was a supporter of mine for many years, and she reached out to me and said, I read the court filings, right? And I made a post on Facebook and Twitter that got a lot of attention saying, holy shit, I might be sitting on the story of a century here. Like a Boston cop was murdered allegedly by the girlfriend, but it looks like she was framed. Another Boston cop did it. And I put it out there. And that post got a lot of attention. And Jenna Altman had been, for like 6 days prior when the story first came out in NBC 10, she had been commenting online saying, I think this woman's innocent. Like, this doesn't make sense. And a woman reached out to her who was friends with Karen Reed named Natalie. And Natalie was like, hey, thank you for saying those things. I'm friends with Karen. We went to college together. Thank you for saying those things. And when I made the post 4 days later saying, I'm looking into the story, that's when Jen is like, tells me like, hey, I've been talking to some woman who knows Karen Reed. You want me to, and she started a group chat with the three of us. Say, this is Natalie, this is Aiden. He writes Turtleboy. He's interested in writing about this. And it's my understanding from my conversations with Karen Reed since then that she didn't even know who I was. John knew who I was, as it turns out, because in John's cell phone data, it shows him and Julie Albert texting about me in 2021. And Julie Albert tells John O'Keefe that her biggest fear in life is being featured on Turtleboy. Oh, and how'd that work out for her?
Yeah.
And so, but Karen Reed apparently had not, because she never reached out to me. She never,
right.
I mean, she wanted this story told, and she never thought to reach out to Turtleboy. Mm-hmm. And so Jen Altman connects me with Natalie, and I'm already writing the story. And Natalie kind of helps fill in some details about, like, I'm like, do you have pictures of what I didn't have pictures of a lot of these people. I didn't know what they looked like. I was just reading the court filing. And she would send me pictures. She would clarify things. It was confusing. I would get names wrong. I would get dates wrong. And I kind of ran up, like, do I have this right? It took me hours to write the first story. I was up till 3:30 a.m. And I had sent Natalie my final draft. I'm like, can you make sure everything's right in here so I don't, like, defame anyone? And she corrected a couple things. I didn't realize at the time that it was basically I was speaking to Karen. Like, she was just the messenger, Natalie was, relaying things between me and Karen. And so I publish it on 3:30 on April 18th, and I go to bed, and I wake up, and my website's just mobbed with traffic like I've never seen before.
And I'm sure the Norfolk County District Attorney's Office is starting to panic.
Oh, yeah. I mean, we've seen their messages in Discovery. Like, Jennifer McCabe is asking the DA's office, are you going to do anything about this? You know, are you going to say something about this Google search that it's not real?
Yeah, silence this guy.
Right. Well, and just like, can you say I'm innocent?
Right.
Like,
right.
Can you do something? Like,
yeah.
And they didn't have an expert. They hadn't hired Jessica Hyde or Ian Whiffen yet. So they had no way to dispute this Google search. For all they knew, it's legitimate because it says right there. I've never heard of a Celebrate report being wrong before.
Right.
And so they didn't, and they put out some generic statement on April 20th saying, just wait till court. We're going to disprove this. How did they know they were going to disprove it? They hadn't hired an expert yet. And so that's when I thought for sure when I wrote this story, when I hit publish, I'm like, they're dropping the charges within a week. They have no choice now. This is, they're not evil, right? They're not like this. Too many people see this now. They can't continue to do this in front of our faces. And they just hit the gas pedal.
Right. Instead, they did the opposite.
Right. And that's when I realized, holy shit, we're in a battle here.
Yeah.
Like, this is going to be a war. This is evil. What these people, they are doubling down. And why are they doing this? For the McAlberts? Like, how connected are these people that they get this sort of special treatment from Michael Morrissey? And then I found out the federal government was investigating the investigation itself, and that Michael Morrissey was potentially a target in all this. And the state police were clearly a target in all this. And so that's unheard of before. And like, in my mind, I'm thinking, well, they're going to arrest these people at some point. They have to. Like, the feds are investigating this. The feds don't shoot and miss, as Karen Reed once said. But as it turns out, they convened a grand jury. They brought these people in. They treated them as suspects, according to Gretchen Voss's latest hit piece. She interviews Colin Albert and Brian Albert.
I was going to ask you about the Boston Magazine hit piece.
Yeah. Let's talk.
Tell me about it. So recently I saw the story, and I kind of said, wow.
I mean, Gretchen Voss is just a trash bag loser who masquerades as a journalist, right? She met me in June of 2023 when this was getting big. She interviewed me and for a story, and then she published this, and she was like, she came to the rolling rally. She was all in. She believed Karen was innocent. And then David Traub bought her a burger, the PR guy from the Norfolk DA's office and like fed her a bunch of lies. And she started talking to this person named Kate Peter, who is obsessed with me and hates me, and starts trying to convince her I'm a bad person.
Well aware of who she is.
Yeah, she's a little crazy, that one. And so Gretchen Voss's piece in September is very negative towards me and attempts to paint me as like a bad person. This is before I'm arrested. And it kind of like started to sway public opinion that like maybe Karen Reed is actually there was no dispute Karen Reed was innocent before Gretchen Voss's article came out. Mm-hmm. And so whatever. And so after the article comes out, I slammed her. I'm like, I called her out on it, and she began not liking me, and she became very close with the McAlberts. You're not supposed to, an unbiased reporter should not be close.
Seems like a lot of people flip-flop
they do.
during this
they
whole
do. Oh, there's a
case.
lot of that. We call that Turtleboy derangement syndrome. Yeah. And
Yeah,
so,
right.
so she, starts, I was told through Lindsay Gattani told me that she did mushrooms. Gretchen did mushrooms with Kate Peter.
Is that the young lady that tried to have me
That's
arrested?
how we met. That's how we met through Lindsay Gattani.
We met through the young lady that tried to have me
and
arrested.
believe it or
but-
not, her and I have become cordial.
Really?
Yes, we have.
I heard that.
Yes.
And I was somewhat shocked, and I almost reached out to you and said, buyer beware.
Oh, believe me, we're not kumbaya walking
Right.
into the sunset together or anything like that. But
Okay.
in my opinion, she was never the enemy. Like, she was somebody who was used.
She was a pawn.
The more we learned about it, the more we learned that like they literally used
pillow
her.
talk.
Yeah, they brought her.
For pillow talk.
Yeah,
to
that.
try-
Yeah, they. What
Yeah.
do you got on him? What has he told you?
Yeah.
And they realized she was in an emotional state that was upset with me.
Yeah.
And so they're like, we can manipulate this.
Yeah.
We got her, And they convinced her, oh, he's a bad guy, this and that. And the more that I learned as time came out, the more it became clear they were using her. They brought her to court 3 days after I got out of jail in order to have me. They didn't know her.
Right.
And as we've seen now through the evidence, they recruited her to do that. Paul O'Keefe and Kate Peter recruited her to do that. And they're like, hey, we want you there. They want you there. And she's like, me?
Well, they knew your weakness.
Well, I had to leave if she came.
Yeah.
And so it forced them to expel me. And so obviously I hated her for that.
Right.
But after a while, like the more evidence came out, it's like, okay, so she's just kind of a pawn in this whole thing. Yeah. And eventually she started making posts online that were really negative towards Brian Tully, towards Kate Peter. And I'm like, she wants to talk. Like it became very obvious. See, she wants to flip back, if you will. And so I reached out to her, and it was a very awkward conversation first.
Can you get her to go on record and say that I never intimidated her?
Yeah, of course. Yeah. Yeah. Well, that whole thing, it's just like, like that morning, like we play that all the time about how I could have done that differently. And like, if I had just, she had a restraining order on me, so I couldn't reach out to her. But I'm like, if I could have just got to her and talked to her.
Well, it's not a violation of a restraining order when your attorney sends me to do it.
But I feel like that. I feel like she expected me to reach out there.
Right.
You know what I mean? When I send some guy, I send Mark Chauppetta to go do it, and she's like, "Who's this showing up at my doorstep?" And it made it worse.
And I had a guy on my right hand shoulder. I had another investigator with me as a witness.
Yeah, exactly. And so
two
in
on
hindsight,
one.
that kind of like intimidated her. Like that made her be like, okay, if I had just reached out to her myself, which I couldn't do because of the order.
Right.
I feel like I could have talked to her.
But that was obviously too risky and against against our legal advice.
Yeah, you got to follow your legal advice,
Yeah.
And so, because of that, her and I were enemies there. And after she started making postings, I'm like, you know what? This person would be more valuable as an ally, I guess,
100%,
than as an enemy.
Right.
And she's been behind enemy lines. She knows all the dirty, nasty, and she's given us all this information now about what they've done. Like on March 6, 2024, she showed me her text with Jennifer McCabe.
Oh wow!
Did you know they followed us? They stalked us.
No, I didn't.
Oh yeah. So I don't know if you remember this, but we went to the Medfield police to file a report against her.
We did. I was with you.
Yes. And then we went to the Dedham police to file another report against her. So they knew we were coming because Brian told
They were following us when we did that?
Brian told Jennifer.
So me, the PI, didn't recognize the surveillance on us?
You didn't know we were being tracked.
Holy shit.
Yeah. And so they, according to the messages which Lindsay has now shared with us, Jen McCabe on March 6th tells her, Brian Tolley told us that he's going to Medfield Police and then Dedham Police. We're going to follow him around. And they wear disguises. They're like, they take a picture where they all have hats on and sunglasses. And they're like, we're going to pick you up. Why are you picking her up?
Right.
You know, like, what does she have to do with any of this? Like, and you're picking her up to stalk me. And meanwhile, both of you have orders against me. You're both allegedly scared of me. And like Jen McCabe, you're like intimidated by me, yet you're following me around. You're using my ex to follow me around and do surveillance on me. And they took pictures of us leaving the Medfield Police Department, and they literally followed us.
I hope they got my good side.
I don't know. But they had us all. They were in the parking lot at the Dedham Police Department, and her texts show this. And so this is...
You don't want a refund, do you?
No, but this is like evidence we can show.
Yeah, exactly.
And I wouldn't have this evidence if I didn't make amends with her, if you will.
Yeah.
And so to me, it was like, what am I going to continue to have this person as an enemy? Like, why would I do that when they could be an ally?
Well, let's rewind it a little bit, because we don't got. I could talk to you all day.
Yeah.
Let's rewind it a little bit. Let's talk about the Turtle Riders, the Free Karen Reed movement, and how that just kind of all steamrolled, and the masses of people every day at court and outside and supporting, you know, and the division between the two sides. Just kind of touch a little bit on that. Yeah.
So, you know, when they wouldn't drop the charges against Karen Reed, and it made it very clear that, like, we're going to do what we can, and Judge Cannoni was clearly in the bag for them. I'm like, you know what? I'm going to do the only thing that we can do in the United States of America when you see something that's wrong, and that's protest. That's take to the streets, you know? And I started organizing. Is that my phone? No,
yeah.
I got it on vibrate, of course.
See, you told me about the whole vibrate feature.
And so, good thing didn't ring. So anyway, I'm like, let's protest. Like, let's do something about this, because I'm like, it's wrong what the government's doing. And like, what's the most American thing you can do in Massachusetts? Protest the government. And so I organized a rolling rally, as we called it, in which we went to the homes of Jennifer McCabe, Michael Proctor, Brian Albert, and then the Canton Police Department. And we told them ahead of time that we were coming. And so if you don't want to be there, don't be there. We're not going to go on your property. We're not going to do anything. And we peacefully went.
Take all the preparations you need. We're coming.
Yeah. And I filmed it because I wanted to get the government's attention, and I wanted them. That's my whole point of doing this, was to like make it impossible for them to hide this. And so I didn't threaten them. I showed up outside of their homes on a public street. I explained their involvement in a murder. I said that we're going to let the public know what they've done. They don't get to just be anonymous and act like they've done nothing wrong. And that was the purpose of the rolling rally, was to draw attention to the government providing cover for these people.
And this subsequently is what led to your charges at Norfolk Superior Court.
That's right.
Do you have any regrets about any of that and how that happened, or would have you done it any differently?
I mean, that's a good question. Would I have done it any differently? I would not have canceled the rolling rally because it's legal. I mean, it's like, I'm not going to give up it's perfectly legal to do that. In hindsight, now that I've known what they're using against me, maybe I wouldn't have sworn as much, because that's what they're just trying to do. Did
you have any fun names that day?
Oh yeah. I mean, I called these people every nasty word in the book, you know, but you play that in front of a grand jury, and they're like, well, this guy's an asshole.
Right.
They're like, you know, like, but they don't.
It's a little taken out of context when you're in front of a grand jury.
Right. And so, like, maybe if I had been all wearing a suit and prim and proper. And
I've seen it. I've witnessed it. I've heard it in court. And I'm like, oh, boy.
Yeah. But it's like, it's all legal.
Yeah.
But it poisons their mind. It makes them think this guy's a bad guy. Right. Listen to the words he's using. Look, he's calling women the C word. He's doing this. This is a bad person. And then the grand jurors are like, well, yeah, we can't have that. And they're not familiar with that the First Amendment allows me to say these things, etc. And so they just poison them that way. So if I would do anything differently, I guess I would just clean the language up a bit. Just so they couldn't use that against me.
Make it rated R to PG-13.
Yeah. Exactly. Right. Yeah. Okay. And so, like, maybe that's it. But like the acts of what I did, the protesting, I wouldn't have done that differently, because that's what made this an international phenomenon. Was me. Nobody's ever held a protest on the courthouse stairs outside of a pretrial hearing. I did in favor of a woman who was charged and indicted with a second-degree murder of a Boston police officer. That's who I went to bat for. And that gets the attention of Court TV. Then they had me on in August of 2023. And then more and more people start talking about it because there's literally footage of a man with a bullhorn on the courthouse stairs helping, there to advocate for a murder defendant.
Right.
And that's what made this. And it grew, and it grew, and it grew, and it grew. And the more people read about this case, the more they sided with me. They didn't need me to tell them Karen Reed was innocent. I just pointed them to the facts.
Right.
And they look at the facts and they're like, holy crap, this guy's onto something.
Yeah.
And that's why it turned into such a big thing.
Do you think that, because it's 2026, traditional media to the type of media person you are, it seems like people struggled with you as a reporter. And I know you had a hard time getting media credentials, getting into court. It's because they didn't view you as a media person, a reporter, like the old school ones.
Yeah.
It seems like that old school mentality. Do you think it kind of changed the whole landscape on that?
Yeah. I mean, independent journalism is where most people get their real news now. The mainstream media was not telling the story of Karen Reed, so I did.
Yeah.
And so have other independent, like Justice Served and all these other YouTube channels that have kind of propped up as a result of this. Melanie Little, people like that are doing that. That's more popular than anything else because they're showing what everyone else isn't showing.
Yeah.
And so they can act. They don't want to legitimize me because that's their worst nightmare is that they can just be replaced by a turtle. And but it's the fact of the matter is I am credentialed. I have broken a number of stories that they haven't. My track record speaks for itself. I might be rough around the edges, but you can't deny the work that I've done and the effect that this has had.
You don't have some editor in your ear telling you what to write or not to write.
Nope.
Or who you're going to offend.
Nope.
Or who's on whoever's payroll.
Yep, exactly. And I won't be censored. And that's what they hate is that they can't control me like they can control others. And that's what made this, such a big story is that I said things that everyone was thinking, but that the mainstream media was afraid to say. And that's what made it such a big story.
So for those watching this, where are you at this point, which is July 29th, 2026, when it comes to your cases in Norfolk Superior Court?
So right now, we had a motion to dismiss hearing 9 days ago. The judge has not ruled on that. Not really optimistic about it, but you kind of have to be. But you're prepared. You move ahead with your plans that you assume you're going to lose that. You're not like being like, well, he's going to dismiss it and I'm done tomorrow. I assume I'm going to lose. That way you can't set yourself up for disappointment and that I'm going to trial. I'm in trial mode.
How many original charges were there?
Originally, there were 9 felony accounts for witness intimidation. 3 of them against Michael Proctor, Julie Albert, and Yuri Buchanan have been dropped. There were 3 conspiracy to commit witness intimidation charges against Michael Proctor, Elizabeth Proctor, and Jennifer McCabe that have been dismissed. And there was a picketing charge against Michael Proctor that was dismissed. So what's left over is 6 felony witness intimidation charges and 4 misdemeanor picketing charges.
And that's what you're prepared to go to trial.
That's what I'm
prepared. And that's going to be sometime at the end of the year.
December 7th is scheduled for jury selection. We have motions in limine that are supposed to be heard. I believe November 18th, because there will be a lot of motions in limine for this one about what's going to be allowed and what isn't allowed. The venue is uncertain whether or not it's going to be held because the judge that's been assigned to this case is in Suffolk Superior, which is in downtown Boston, which sucks to get to. Dedham is much more accessible.
Right.
And
now, there is a political change coming up as well when it comes to the district attorney.
That's right.
It's an election year.
It is an
election
election
year. Does
year.
that play a factor in this?
We'll see. Time will tell. We are assuming it won't and moving forward with our defense to be ready for this. And
that's in November, I would say, right, that election?
The general is in November, but for all intents and purposes, the election is September 1st because that's the Democratic primary.
Okay.
Whoever wins the Democratic primary is going to win. I don't even think there is a Republican running.
Okay.
So there are 7 candidates right now. And the establishment candidate is Greg Conner. He's the one with all the Morrissey endorsements. He's basically viewed as like Morrissey's pawn. He worked for Morrissey. And we can assume that if he gets elected, it's going to be business as usual.
Right.
And the problem right now is there are 6 other challengers who, in my opinion, are likely to split the vote. And the leading candidate among them all is a man by the name of Adam Deitch. And Adam Deitch was the U.S. attorney, assistant U.S. attorney, assigned to the grand jury that investigated the McAlberts and the Norfolk DA's office.
Right.
And according to Brian Albert and Colin Albert, they were grilled by this guy, and the federal government, Deitch, used my articles and my tweets and confronted Colin Albert with them. According to Colin Albert, no other sources were used, and they accused these people of being murderers, essentially. And so Adam Deitch and them seem to be getting their news from, they consider me a legitimate source of information. And Adam Deitch, we all know that ended with no indictments, and he decided to quit his job as a U.S. attorney, sell his condo in East Boston, and move to Norfolk County just to run for DA. And so whatever he saw at that grand jury greatly upset him. And I think he's it seems like he's almost haunted by the fact that no indictments happened. 'Cause, I mean, you don't leave your cushy job to go and run for DA in a county.
So you're watching this election really
close.
close.
Very, very close. And obviously we don't want to create any sort of conflict with Adam Deitch. So I'm not going to, I'm hesitant to align myself with him, or I would never give money to him. I would vote for him if I lived in Norfolk County, just because I think he represents change and anti-corruption. But it's one of those things, if he does win and you're too associated with him, well, then he might have to conflict himself out. So you got to be very careful.
How are you preparing yourself, for the worst case scenario here? And have there been any, last minute plea offers here? Or is that something you would ever entertain?
No, I'm not preparing the answer to that is I'm not preparing myself for it at all. If that happened, it would be a complete shock. I'm fully confident that when I take the stand and I explain why I do what I do and all of the evidence is shown in court, there is no jury on earth that would ever convict me of witness intimidation. They will see the same thing I do. They underestimated my passion when they arrested me and they charged me with this, that I don't bend. And I'm not going to give, Karen Reed inspired me to be like this almost. Like she never bended. There was no plea offer to Karen Reed because they knew better. Right. And there's no plea offer to me, and there's not going to be a plea offer to me. And we will fight this to the bitter end, and we will win because I am passionate about this. I am passionate about justice for John O'Keefe. It keeps me up at night knowing that the people who murdered him are still out there and that they want to continue to come at me. And sue me and have me charged with intimidating them. And if you want to put me on the stand and tell 12 strangers on a jury, why I did this and why I believe that, what I was doing was fighting for justice and exposing corruption, I'm happy to do it.
Okay. What, I know you're probably too humble of a guy to admit this, but if it wasn't for Turtleboy, the Turtleboy movement, it could be a different tune, for Karen Reed. So what's your relationship like with her now?
Well, not according to Karen Reed. I mean, Karen Reed and I are not, that's the funny part about this deal is that we're not friends. I have not spoken to her in 9 months. We had a major falling out that was kind of publicized, a personal falling out, and we don't talk to each other. And we had a very different view afterwards when, the dust settled and everything, and it's kind of been widely publicized. It's no secret, so I'm not sharing anything that people don't know, but she viewed what I did as complimentary, but didn't really have much of an effect. You didn't, you're not the reason, you didn't really do much. That's kind of the take I got from it is that, and the last time we spoke, she was yelling at me and telling me that, I don't.
It's not the first time a woman's yelled at you.
No, it's not. But she told me I should be thanking her. That she made me who I am, and I know it. And I'm like, pardon? And
that's kind of a twisted viewpoint.
Yeah, so I guess we just have a difference of opinion about the effect that I had on this case, et cetera. Because in my opinion, I'm like, the crowds outside, they weren't there because of your charm and personality. They were there because I told the story about what was happening to you. And she kind of views it as, you're making money off of my tragedy and, it's like, but, and you were a liability at times. And I almost got jammed up with conspiracy to commit witness intimidation charges against you because you told Lindsay about me and our conversations and you had a big mouth. And I do have a big mouth, but The big mouth is why the crowds were outside.
But just like Lindsay Gattani, there's always hope that maybe you guys kind of...
Yeah, I don't have anything personal
again.
against Karen Reed. Yeah. It's just because we have a difference of viewpoint. Yeah. I mean, Karen Reed and I are forever bonded together by this experience, whether or not she likes it and whether or not I like it, right? Like
you're just lucky you have no kids together.
Yeah.
And there's no child support.
Well, this brought us together. Like her tragedy became mine. Like, I didn't expect to be arrested for going to bat for Karen Reed, but I was, right? They didn't come after me because I was exposing anyone else in the past. They came after me when I started defending her and looking for justice for John O'Keefe. And so her and I, have together, done more to expose what happened to John O'Keefe than the district attorney's office ever has.
Right.
And so personality conflicts aside, we're forever. That's how it's going to go down in the history books.
Well, you and I are going to be forever connected because I kind of did the perp walk with you.
Yes.
Because I surrendered you.
You did surrender me. That's true. that was the first time I met you.
Right.
On my birthday. Of all
on
days.
Your birthday.
On my birthday.
The first time I met you.
Yes.
Christmas weekend.
Yes. And,
I had to hand you over to the authorities.
Well, because Tim and I, the plan was, we spoke all through Christmas.
Yes.
Go to the courthouse.
Yes.
Get in and out.
Yeah.
And before cameras get there, nothing. So we get there at 9 a.m. Brian Tully's standing on the court upstairs. He's waiting for me.
Yes, I
to
remember.
do that. And so Tim is like, change of plans.
Yeah.
You're going to meet with Mark. You're going to turn yourself in to the Medfield police. They're going to book you. They're going to bring it down here. We're going to be ready to go and blah, blah, blah. And obviously it did not go the way that we wanted it to go because I had my bail revoked on that day. And I went to jail on my birthday of all days.
I visited you.
You did.
Either that day or the next day I came in and visited you. And it was kind of a somber.
It was rough.
Day.
You saw me early on. Early on, it was at the roughest point,
Yeah. But that warm hug you gave me.
Yeah, right. Yeah, right. Yeah.
Meant a lot to me.
Yeah, of course it did. Yeah.
So you said you're forever connected to this case. You kind of are until you have a big fat not guilty, and then it's kind of over criminally. Then you got to deal with all the civil bullshit that's going on, which I'm sure will work itself out.
Very expensive, though. That's the thing. It's like they're trying to drain me of my resources.
Right.
And I look forward to the day when I can make money and keep it, as opposed to make money and pay for the Bradle Kid College Expense Fund. Basically.
You got a new house, I think.
I did, and that was before I got sued. So I didn't realize I was going to get sued.
You got a homestead on it?
I do have a homestead
all right,
on
good.
it. Oh, we took my realtor's all over that.
All right.
My realtor who I met through the Karen Reed case, lovely woman by the name of Lindsay Higgins, who was John O'Keefe's ex-boyfriend, who used to go to Karen, who stood by Karen Reed, and that's how I met her. She's a great
Keep
gal.
it in the family.
Yeah.
So what's the future hold for Aiden Carney, Turtleboy? I know there's entertainment things in the future. Possible movie, possible documentary. What's going on with that?
You introduced me to a fella by the name of Jeff Caligari.
Well, I wasn't trying to take any credit. I was just like...
But you did, and it's
all right.
important. And, we all went to dinner in the North End, and he was, I already had a deal with someone else at the time that was set to expire, and he just seemed like a go-getter. And he's like, I was unhappy with the way things were. There wasn't much progress with the other deal. And he's like... he's a Boston guy, which meant a lot to me because this is a Boston story.
And his cousin rode with
John O'Keefe, right?
Yes.
Yes. And so he had a personal connection to the story. And Jeff has just seemed like a great guy. And, I've known him for a couple of years now. He's really invested in this. And he's on my side in this, and he's on Karen Reed's side. Like because he knows the truth. Jeff knows the truth.
Right.
And so he's not presenting this documentary as some sort of well, maybe it's not a whodunit.
Right.
It's Karen Reed was framed for murder, period.
Yeah.
And that's the angle that the doc is going in, and the movie as well. And so we hope to have a doc out within the next year and the movie out within 2.
Yeah, and there's been recent reportings in the media that Matt Damon's jumping on with Karen Reed. And I've always said, even if I didn't know you, I've always said that your story is way more interesting than her movie. Like, yours is the rise of this history teacher and all that you've done, in the media and fighting people and fighting against the man. So to me, if I was someone watching it, I'd be much more entertained than hers is going to be like a courtroom drama. Like, what else is there? You know,
Well,
as
the
far
difference
as her
between
movie.
Karen Reed and me is that I chose to be here. She didn't.
Right.
You know, like she didn't ask to get framed for murder.
Yeah.
But she was. I chose to look into this. I chose to make a big spectacle out of this. I chose to, really just make my voice heard and make sure that the story was told. You know, they didn't know who I was for this. They didn't have to frame me for this. Whereas with her, they had to frame her because there's a dead guy, that needs justice. And so somebody had to go down for that. So, I'm a little biased. I think my story is a little bit more interesting. I think her story.
I'm a little biased as well.
Yeah, I mean.
So, last question before we wrap up. And the person I was going to say now has a conflict because I just mentioned his name. Who would you want to play Turtleboy in your movie?
I've always said Jeremy Renner.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah.
I was going to say Matt Damon, but he might be a little too old.
Well, yeah, I don't want to.
And now is a conflict. But Jeremy Renner.
I don't know how old Jeremy Renner is, but I just loved him in The Town.
All right,
that's like one of
I
my
can see
favorite
Jeremy Renner
movies of all time. And he's a short blonde guy.
All right, and who's going to play your private investigator?
Danny DeVito? No, just
Danny
kidding.
DeVito. Oh.
I was just kidding. I don't know who you think should. I don't know.
Jason Statham.
Oh, there you go.
How's
That works.
All
that
right.
works. That works. Yes.
Yeah, minus the British accent.
Yeah.
All right. On that note, awesome interview. I appreciate you coming in.
Yeah.
And
pleasure.
We'll be in touch.
Thanks for having me.